Welcome to Pitch It To Me Podcast, a show about the subjective past, present, and potential future of flesh and blood design. Today's episode will be about the Living Legend format. You can find us across all socials such as Blue Sky and Instagram at Pitch It To Me Podcast.
I'm Joel.
I'm Buzzy.
And I'm Clark.
Nice.
I'm just Clarking it over here.
Hey, I'm Clarkin over here.
I'm Clarking over here.
It's nice that we finally got all three Pitch It To Me hosts on the same episode.
Holy.
Oh, but wait a minute. Why is Chair still here?
Oh, yeah, Chair's just watching today, but we've got Joel on Zoom. So he's still with us spiritually and vocally.
I knew Chair was a cuck this whole time.
I was going to say, I don't know how comfortable I am with this. It's kind of voyeuristic.
How was your holidays, Clark?
My holidays was nice. It was
Thanksgiving?
Good, yeah.
For Thanksgiving, my partner and I, we kind of kept it really low key. We had like one or two friends over, but mostly John just cooked ribs and it was great.
Oh, John's such a good fucking cook.
Yep.
Yeah.
I should have shown up. I should have just swung by, still in a food coma from my own family's Thanksgiving, and been like,
It would have been worth it.
no, more.
Yep. Joel, what about you? How was your Thanksgiving?
My Thanksgiving was pretty dope. I brought my girlfriend with me to my family's Thanksgiving dinner, and we had our grandmother on my dad's side come over as well. So it was a pretty low-key dinner for us as well. Very enjoyable. We got it catered from, I think, Omaha Steaks or something.
Oh, yeah.
And we actually made the mac and cheese that turned out really well. So yeah, good weekend overall, or good Thanksgiving overall.
You know, I don't think I ever understood the idea of like getting Thanksgiving catered, but like it's such a thing for so many families and like all around the world too, and for different holidays. Like I know in Japan, it's for Christmas, it's all fried chicken, specifically from Kentucky Fried Chicken from KFC. And it's like, man, I don't know. My family's just always cooked. My mom's just always cooked for us.
It's funny you say that. I feel similarly, but my mom has been cooking for, our entire lives, basically.
Oh, yeah.
For us three boys, and then obviously my dad as well. And I think after a while, you just kind of get over it. Like all the added stress of the turkey and all the other side dishes, like it's a lot to take on yourself.
And I think
if you have helpers, so
yeah,
I totally get the impulse to be like, you know what, I'm just going to phone it in this time. And it turned out great either way. And we got to still make, the dishes we still wanted to be homemade.
Yeah.
I think it also depends how many of the family that are coming over are like kids. Because when there's still like kids in the family, you're like, oh, we have to do a traditional Thanksgiving so they know how to do it right.
Then when everyone's an adult, it's like
let's just order stuff.
Yeah. You know what? I respect it. It's not been my lived experience, but like if you've had your holidays been catered, like what's that experience?
Only the
been
last
like?
couple for me personally.
Yeah.
It's been like a recent thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell us about your Thanksgiving if you're in the America country. If you're in a different country,
Yeah, if you're not in the
like,
American
what?
country, you're like, what the fuck are you talking? Or if you're in Canada, you're like, bitch, that was last month. Or I guess when they're listening to this 2 months ago, it was in October. They do the Canadian Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Canada.
Our podcast episode today is about the Living Legend format. It's been a buzz lately with the World Championship being part Living Legend, and with it kind of being sunsetted as LSS has officially moved it to the special format category of their website.
Oh no!
Which is their way of saying
format category in the sky.
Yeah, their way of saying this isn't like a real format, but you can definitely play it if you want to. Up to you.
All right, friends and folk, before we get into the episode, we have a question for y'all. And not just any question. This is the question of the week.
Whoa, we're branding it now?
We're branding it now. It's a whole new thing, never been done before. Only here at Pitch to Me Podcast.
Yeah, no other podcast has ever asked the question of their audience.
I haven't heard a single podcast do it. So we're the first. That's why you should subscribe to us. But without further ado, what would it take for you, the listener, to be excited about the Living Legend format?
Yeah, so let us know in the comments. In the meantime, for Red Pitch, we're going to be talking about the competitive viability of the Living Legend format. In Yellow Pitch, we're going to use the Living Legend format as a case study for how to launch a format or how not to launch a format. And in Blue Pitch, we're going to talk about what it might take for Living Legend to return to us someday. For Red Pitch, Joel, why don't you start us off?
Hey, it's me again. You thought I would get away, but I didn't.
Yeah, that's right. He's recording the entire episode with us.
Yeah,
Sucker.
against my will. I did try
We ain't letting them weasel out of this one.
Yeah, so in Red Pitch, we're going to talk about the competitive viability in LL. Turn your pages to page 6. I feel like LL has sucked until... Well, wait a minute. Did it actually suck, though? Or has it always been this way?
Because, like, everyone was so down on LL, and then Worlds happened, and people was like, those games are fun.
I also feel like spectators were scared, startled by the sheer power that comes from some of these LL decks, like Dash.io repeatedly winning the game after having a life deficit of like 35 life points.
Oh, that was such a crazy comeback.
That was pretty rough to watch, and I will say that is like the one big negative about LL I heard from the weekend, but like overall, what I heard about LL coming out of Worlds was that it was fun to watch.
Yeah, like you got to think of it this way. Dash was doing that last World Championships, and people were like, oh my God, this needs to be banned immediately. But in Living Legend, you can watch that and be like, oh my God, that was insane. You know, it's only in Living Legend that something like this could happen.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of cool to watch.
But also, LL did suck for Worlds, right? Like, the pro players did not enjoy testing for it. They didn't enjoy how narrow the format felt. Like, they weren't vibing with it, right? So, like, it still sucked. Yeah?
I think there was definitely some problems that we're going to be talking about throughout our whole episode today. But yeah, generally, I think it was not super well received, and it's not super surprising to me that they would like quote unquote scrap it in favor of other things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious what that other thing could be, right? Because I think the experiment that was 2 constructed formats for Worlds is probably better than just 1 constructed and 1 limited, right? Like, how many successful TCGs can you count on one hand that are successful, like, 1 format games? Because I feel like a lot of people can argue that Flesh and Blood is also a 1 format game when you think of it in CC.
CC is definitely markedly more popular than any other format, but we've never had a world championship that was only 1 format. I think if you look at other games, which I do not follow, like I have no idea what other games are doing, but how many of them at their world championship level are only playing 1 format? That might be a more like definable question.
Yeah, Magic's always had at least some version of draft going on. I know that they've done 1 format circuits for like Modern and Legacy, you know, because like the whole point is playing that 1 format. But that's because Magic has so many formats that they can do entire organized play structures around the different formats.
Especially with their player base as well, right? Like if you say 5% of the player base is playing this 1 format, that's still a lot of players, right?
Yeah, that could still be like 200,000 people in the US alone, you know? Maybe I'm being way too dramatic with the number there, but you know.
It sounded right. I don't know. It's a number.
They're not going to fact check me. I don't think there are that many successful 1 format games, primarily because I think games are 1 format games until multiple years down the line, right? Like, I think it takes a while for other formats to emerge out of the game system. And as more and more cards get printed, players find new and interesting ways of playing with those cards. And that's because, like, at the end of the day, we kind of forget Commander, now currently the primary format of Magic the Gathering and the most popular way of playing TCGs in the world, started as a fan format, as Elder Dragon Highlander, which was originally just a way of being like, hey, these 5 old legendary dragons are pretty wacky. What if we built entire singleton decks around them? Like, that's what it started as. And now it's grown into this whole thing. You know, I think it takes time. But to sort of touch on the beginning of what you were talking about, Joel, of like, is 2 constructed formats better than 1 constructed and 1 limited? I mean, our first Worlds format was Blitz and Classic Constructed, right?
I think there's also Draft, but I could be mistaken.
It was a triple threat. I do remember some of our locals having to play all 3. And I think in the second Worlds, or maybe it was the first, where someone was jokingly saying, "Oh yeah, I played Icelander for 14 rounds." It was Blitz, CC, and also Uprising draft at the time.
Yeah. And so like I kind of have always loved that LSS is like, well, if you want to say that you're one of the best players at the game at one of our premier events, you got to be good at at multiple formats. You can't just specialize in one. You need to show that you are experienced enough with the game that you can excel in multiple categories.
Yeah, I like that aspect of the World Championships for sure. And really the Pro Tours as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this year they chose Living Legend.
Yep.
And I think it was a easier format to approach because of the best of 3 change. At least for the World Championships, they added, in addition to Living Legend format being one of the ways that you can play in Worlds, you're also getting best of 3. Now I can't remember the exact ruling, but I know that people with higher seed in the top 8 can say like, "Oh, I'm going to choose LL first," and then whoever loses gets a chance to change the format again. And then the third one would obviously settle the set.
Yeah, and there's like some mechanics where depending on if you had turn order, you would not pick the format or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
I will say the best of 3 thing is something that you cannot do with draft. Like you're not going to draft decks and then have it up in the air whether or not you're going to play with those for 1 or 2 games. Like
yeah. It's really something you can only do with 2 constructed formats.
Yeah, and I think there's some value there.
Yeah.
As much as I love draft, I love draft.
I also think 2 constructed formats is probably better than 3 constructed formats because
that's just crazy.
well, I mean, maybe not, but I would kind of hate this idea of like, I don't know. I guess here's where
for a world championship, I think it could work.
Let me walk it back.
Oh, here we go. The old classic Clark walk back.
Yeah, the whole Clark. I started in the middle of my argument. Let me go back to the beginning. Before best of 3 formats, a lot of these premier events felt like there was the primary format and then the little secondary format.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was like the primary format's classic constructed.
Always has been.
And then there's draft over there. You know, we do draft at the end of day 1.
Yeah, you have to know
2.
more than one format, posers.
Yeah, and like you do. It forces you to be good at it, but at the end of the day, like classic constructed is what's going to carry you through, and the top 8's all classic constructed. When you're playing the cream of the crop, it's top 8.
I would even argue if you sat down and you were trying to find the best player in all of Flesh and Blood, and all you did was play classic constructed, you wouldn't be losing a lot. You know, that would still be a pretty good test of who is the world champion.
Though if the winner was a wizard player, it would have an asterisk.
Thank you. I completely agree. No bias.
Because they're just so bad at draft. You know, that's why Majin Bey made top 8 of Worlds. He didn't have to do draft.
Oh, yeah.
I'm goofing. Wizard players can draft.
Sometimes, some of them.
Sometimes some of them can draft.
I also really like the best of 3 format because I think a lot of people were upset at the landscape of CC because of, Syndra, Gravy, Verdance, Triangle meta.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you're a player who wants to take a really good tech choice into like Verdance or Syndra, but your Gravy matchup sucks really bad, this is one of the best ways you can give yourself the best chance to make top 8. And I think we saw a good example of that with the Marlin player that ended up in the top 8 of Worlds.
Yeah, at the same time, I think it would kind of suck if it felt like the player could sack one of the formats and get away with that in top 8, right? Where they're like, well, I picked the right Living Legend hero, so I'll just try to always play 2 Living Legend games in every best of 3. And like if they lose every CC one along the way, then it's like, okay, are they really the best player? Like clearly they couldn't win on Classic Constructed.
Yeah, but the way that it was set up, you'd have to have a player selecting to go against that player in Living Legend.
It would have to be like the first seed player where they could choose which format to start with every single time.
And after winning that first game, wouldn't the opponent have to choose? Wouldn't the opponent get to choose format after that? Or would it be like...
Sure,
yes,
but like what I'm saying, Fuzzy, is game 1, I pick Living Legend, I win. Game 2, they pick Classic Constructed, I lose because I'm not really focusing on it.
I see what you mean.
And then Game 3, we go back to Living Legend, and then I win again because I picked the best LL deck.
Somehow I needed that. Thank you.
However, there are also 14 or something rounds of Swiss before then. Like, people had to have a winning record with CC being maybe 12 of those, and then the rest being Living Legend. Like, there's no way that you can sack either of them reliably, and they're able to do it at these premier events because the game as a base is a best of one. So the best of 3 changed to make it a more competitive landscape, especially in top 8, so you can't choose matchups. I think was a really cool change.
Yeah. And ultimately, more games is better for the viewers. Absolutely. I think it increases competitive integrity, and I think it reduces the role that variance plays. Like, at the end of the day, I feel really, really good about how top 8 played out. Now they just got to add a loser's bracket, baby, and it'll all be solved. There'll be no question.
Losers brackets are really hype.
Losers brackets are the fucking shit, bro.
I do want to ask, though, I feel like LL has been going through this weird push and pull relationship with LSS, because isn't it supposed to be a no holds barred format where all the powerful stuff is legal, or is it turning more into CC plus or a modern version?
I don't know what you're talking about, Joel. Did you see those combo turns? Fucking 3 Art of Wars, 4 cash-ins, 2 Toma Find-Alls.
Yeah, I sure did.
I don't know. I think there is a balance that can be struck between a format that's supposed to be more powerful and turned up to 11, knob ripped clean off, and something that can be played competitively. I think yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely had this identity crisis for the entirety of this year. Mm-hmm. I feel like Living Legend has had this identity crisis of, is this the place for us to do the degenerate thing, and for that to be rewarded, accepted, and understood?
Yeah, come on over here. We got Starvo, we got Chain, we got the most powerful fuckers to ever exist in the game of Flesh and Blood. But maybe a more balanced version where you actually can play Starvo and it doesn't feel like cheating.
Yeah, but could that even be the format? I guess it ended up being the format, but it also didn't. They banned cards that I would just not really consider the type of card that deserves to be banned in LL. Deadwood Dirge? Really?
And when we talk about degenerate, how degenerate is too degenerate? Because I feel like there's going to be some level of powerful stuff that you can't really stop. I think the dash combo needs a lot of bans to effectively stop, and Chain already has a lot of cards that are completely out of circulation in all forms of the game, and he's still making top 8 of the world final. So at one point do we just say, okay, this is going to have all the broken stuff, let's just leave it the way it is?
Yeah, especially because I feel like LSS didn't even pull out all the stops here. Everyone was saying we have to do hero-specific bans. Let's do hero-specific bans, and that'll solve everything. And LSS was like, no. We don't think you guys will be able to remember hero-specific bans. It's going to be too complicated. The network of bans will be too hard to keep track of. They'd rather toss out the entire format as is for now and come back to it later than do hero-specific bans. Is it really that big of a deal?
Well, look, when I think about how degenerate is too degenerate, the first thing I want to acknowledge is that we here at Pitch It To Me podcast do not kink shame. Powerful decks are allowed to do the powerful thing, and you're allowed to be excited about that. But I think that LSS, throughout the course of this year and in preparation for Worlds, did pick on which powerful things were acceptable and which powerful things were not acceptable. Starvo existing was acceptable to them. Yeah. When I think many players would consider Starvo actually an unacceptable power level. Whereas Runegate Chain and Zephyr Needle with pumps was considered unacceptable. Why? What about Crown of Seeds? Why is Crown of Seeds an unacceptable play pattern in Living Legend? And I think there were a lot of decisions made that baffled the player base and specifically the testing base because LSS was making decisions for reasons that maybe weren't being communicated. My big theory is that LSS knew that best of 3 was coming and needed to make sure that there wouldn't be fatigue slog fests in top 8.
Okay.
of Worlds with best of 3. You know, you don't want your Worlds going until 11 p.m. at night and like getting kicked out of the venue simply because someone decided that in their untimed rounds they're going to play Crown of Seeds Oldhim and go to the last card in deck every single time.
Jesus.
You know, to paraphrase that point, but from a different perspective, I think LSS really does want LL to be a swingy, fast-paced format where because the power level is higher, the games end faster. I think that's just acceptable for them. Whereas if like the defensive value is cranked up and so the games slow down and it's a lot easier to fatigue, that would be something that maybe raises more of a red flag in their minds. So maybe it's just their vision of the format.
Very much so. And in the process of that, I think in their bans, in their restrictions, in their suspensions, they picked winners and losers. And I think that ultimately graded on the player base a lot. And I think it attributed to that feeling going into Worlds of like, we don't like this format. We're done with this format. But at the end of the day, I think LSS curated a good experience. And I think that kind of got shown off at Worlds of being interesting.
Yeah, I think everyone was trying to like overanalyze the situation, but it ended up being like, we were whining the whole time, but it ended up actually being a decent format. And the fact that they put so much focus on Living Legend as early as they did, it allowed people to brew on the different builds of, a good Living Legend deck in the current format. And I think the people that were paying attention did well because of that information, and it sort of proved to everyone else like, hey, this can be like a flashy part of Flesh and Blood, and maybe it comes back in the future. But we could talk about that more in the yellow pitch, because that's really all I had to say in red pitch. Fuzzy, do you want to talk about how to launch a format in Flesh and Blood?
Yeah, let me just metaphorically grab the mic from you there. So yellow pitch, I want to compare how Living Legend was rolled out to the player base and delivered as a new format, and compare that to Silver Age, our newest kid on the block, and talk about how the rollout for that format seems markedly different.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm going through these points, what I want you to be thinking of in the back of your head, the guiding question for this discussion is, how do we know that Silver Age is going to be more successful than Living Legend was? We saw Living Legend kind of come and, for lack of a better word, die. But Silver Age being the next format, we might, if we were not paying attention, we might think, okay, how do we know Silver Age is going to be any different? Does any new format have this curse upon it where it's going to fail? And I'm basically going to say, no, I think it is different. It will do better as we see the launch of it. There's a lot of differences in how they're launched. So one thing about Living Legend that part of why I find it really fascinating as a format is that it was implied to exist long before we ever had any official rules for it. Because in Classic Constructed, heroes have the Living Legend leaderboard, where they become Living Legends after they collect enough Living Legend points. So what happens after that? They leave. And the only way that you can play with those heroes is if you and your best buddy were like, look, there's no way I can play this hero legally. Let's do an underground game on our kitchen table where we get to play these heroes.
Fucking Prohibition era, knock 3 times and pull on the candlestick twice and they'll let you into the bar.
Exactly. You say, look, I'm not ready to let go of this hero. I want to play it any way I can.
The government can't tell me what to do. I'm going to play Chain as much as I want.
Because there's literally no format that exists from LSS to play it, right?
Yeah.
But everyone kind of assumed eventually they'd come up with their own version of Legacy. Legacy being Magic the Gathering's format that includes any card from the entire printing of Magic the Gathering, or Vintage, which is a similar concept.
Yeah, if Magic was like, here's Standard, where you always have 2 to 3 years of legal playable cards, eventually you end up with this massive backlog of cards that your player base owns, but can't play in Standard. Mm-hmm. So they're going to figure out a way of playing with the cards that they own.
Yeah, God forbid.
Similarly, hey, here's all these heroes that I loved and I fell in love with and have these wonderful strategies and cards that only work for them. I want to play those cards. I own those cards. They're just sitting in my binders. I'm going to find a way to play them.
And especially with how siloed Flesh and Blood tends to be. Again, we're kind of recognizing that now more so than we did in the early years. But it's important that we're able to play with those heroes from past eras. So we always kind of knew this format would come around. And when they was officially announced, hey, here's Living Legend as a format, it started with no ban list, for one thing. And the first time that you were able to officially play this, I believe, was a skirmish season. That they were like, this is the format. You can play it in skirmish season if you want. And generally, it wasn't played in like Pro Tours or Pro Quests or Road to Nationals even. It was more of a side format, a casual format, kind of like Blitz was, where you could play these formats during these like prescripted, semi-casual, semi-competitive events.
It was also an option.
Exactly. It wasn't even the only format during those skirmish seasons.
Yeah, stores were allowed to choose which one they'd do. They were like, yeah, it's Blitz and Living Legend, so just pick Blitz or Living Legend.
Yeah.
And then
or sealed, right?
And then a lot of stores picked Blitz.
Yeah. Which is funny because Blitz is not even a like very played format nowadays.
It's also in the special formats section.
Yeah. So their plan was to slowly, I would assume, accumulate a player base over time. They were expecting there to not be a lot of hype around Living Legend at first, but that it would grow. And I think that makes sense because Living Legend as a format grows in the number of unique heroes that are only playable in Living Legend over time. Because more and more players, more and more heroes leave Classic Constructed and enter Living Legend. So the idea of it starting slow and growing kind of makes sense to me.
I also think they were expecting more of a groundswell. When I think about when the skirmish season started, I'm thinking early 2025, where they started building towards Worlds. I know technically it started in 2024, but also 2024, around the Part the Misfail meta, was the very first time I heard OG players really be like, man, this isn't the Flesh and Blood I came up with. Man, Flesh and Blood back in my day, man, we had Chain, we had Starvo, we had Oldhim, we had Icelander, and I'm like, oh, like there are players that look back on that era and want to return to it.
Yeah.
Those are the people that LL is for.
And I like how you mentioned that. It's not meant for newer players. Living Legend was not something that LSS was expecting to bring people into the game, but it's more of a safety mechanism to keep them there, to keep players playing, give them another way to enjoy heroes that they've always enjoyed. And for that reason, they didn't put a lot of focus on printing, let's say, starter decks into the Living Legend format.
Or even unique cards. If you think about like cards that are specifically printed for a hero in the Living Legend format, it was only really, is it Overgrowth Shock or Evergrowth Shock?
Everbloom Life? No, Everbloom Shock?
It's not Everbloom Shock. The Everbloom Life is a card.
Regrowth Shock?
Regrowth Shock.
Yeah. And everyone hated it.
Yeah, everyone was like, I can't play this card in my Classic Constructed deck.
Actually,
Why the fuck you print
you're
this?
forgetting about a lot of cards that were printed for LL specifically. Number one being Call to Lightning, which was a Lexi specialization that came out after she LL'd.
Oh, yeah.
And
Dust Till Dawn.
And the Dromai Deaths.
The Dromai Ashes.
Yes, all the Dromai Ashes. Oh, good shout, Joel.
I think they are called Dust, right?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
Dust.
the name says Dust, but they are Ashes, like both is right. Yeah. But yeah, Dromai Dust is way funnier. So that should definitely be what we call them.
Definitely imagining all of the Dromais, like, or all of the dragons, like fading to dust, like at the end of the first Avengers.
Yeah.
Conclusion, just no more dragons.
Great shout, Joel. So, and we hated those. We don't like.
Oh yeah. I brought that up because I hate those more.
The closest thing that we did get to a product specifically for Living Legend was a couple of, I'm going to say, afterthought armory decks. There's a Viserai and Prism one that were printed exclusively for conventions. You know, because they're like, what do we make for conventions? We got to put something for conventions exclusive, and they're like, let's do these LL armory decks, and they were okay. I don't think they really like helped to bring a lot of people into the LL format. I think they were just an excuse for people to buy these really cool alternate printings of cards.
Yeah, and I think the decks were pretty mediocre. I remember when they first announced it and going on a fairly long tirade about how you're either going to make that affordable and unplayable at your Living Legend Armory night or unaffordable but playable at your Living Legend Armory night.
Yeah. And it ended up being the affordable, unplayable kind.
Yeah.
especially because some of those cards were even banned, like at the time they were printed, which I don't think we have to get into, but I want to at least point out that there were no starter decks ever released other than those two for Living Legend, because I don't think it was LSS's intention for newer players to be able to pick up a deck and start playing that format.
But as a result, it also became harder for players who picked up the game after important players in the Living Legend format. So like people who picked up the game after Chain and after Starvo, like moi, it was difficult for us to transition over. I remember my local game store saying, hey, are you guys interested in Living Legend? And I go, no, dude, I don't even know what I'd play. Like, I'd have to buy a whole new deck.
Yeah. Starter decks aren't just good for newer players. They're also good for enfranchised players who want to pivot into another hero or another format.
Yeah, I personally would love to buy a Zen starter deck for LL at some point once they release new cards, and maybe an equipment that doesn't make sense for the new Mystic Ninja, but would, I think something like that would definitely get me to play play Living Legend.
One thing I want to point out, if you're going to launch a new format into the game of Flesh and Blood, you would expect that format to give you a play experience that's unlike any previous format that has been in the game, especially if you want players to decide to play it over another one that already exists. And I do actually think LL does this, because playing LL is different from playing CC. Maybe not very different, which is part of why you might think that LL did not succeed very much as a format. I think that's a fair take. But the power level being ratcheted up so much gives you a crazy turned up to 11 and knob ripped off kind of play experience. And I think LSS overestimated how many players would want to play something like that, because I think players don't actually want to play a crazy 5-turn game of 40 life format. At least anecdotally, the people on our Discord really hate the idea of playing a format like that. They tend to like slower, grindier, mid-range Flesh and Blood. So,
or at least the vocal ones.
Yeah.
We, Luke definitely said a lot of great things about it. Anthony Pham has definitely said a lot of great things about Living Legend, just sort of speaking to the people in our space who have anecdotally said nice things about the format. But I think it is something that you have to like. And if you don't like it, it can be pretty rough. But to be fair, a lot of people don't like limited formats, and they've been forced to play it for the past 4 years?
Sure.
Doesn't mean I'm happy about it.
Exactly. We can suck it up. But I will say the price point entry for those two, very, very different.
That's true.
Having to spend $800 on a brand new Living Legend deck is very different for, I don't know, maybe $200 for the assorted packs for practicing draft.
While they waited for Living Legend to slowly accumulate up a player base, they made a push to actually send it into the higher echelon of play by making it one of the marquee formats both for the World Championship, and this was not officially announced, so this is conjecture. But I'm pretty sure they intended for the Pro Tour Yokohama in April to also be CC in Living Legend, because that's why they made the original Pro Quest, the feeder tournaments, Classic Constructed and Living Legend. It's kind of implied that they're using those two feeder tournaments formats in order to bring people in and play those formats competitively.
Yeah, you need to first qualify on the formats that will then be the formats that you will play at the event.
And since then, they have announced that Pro Tour will have Silver Age and not Living Legend. So they've kind of, I don't know if, again, it's a change that they made internally before they released it, but I want to say that's how it is, that they changed their mind on what format was going to be played. They had intended for not just Worlds, but also the Pro Tour to have Living Legend as one of the competitive formats.
Yeah. But this now begs the question, what has Silver Age done so much better to supplant Living Legend as this secondary constructed format that LSS is putting front and center, that they're putting on these marquee events?
Yeah, it's kind of, I think, a little bit of an open question right now, because we haven't had a whole lot of time to actually play Silver Age. I know that Project Blue, the Silver Age predecessor, has been in the community for a long time. And
well, hold on. How long's a long time?
At least a few months. People have had time to test it, but they've only really been testing it unofficially, When I say, people have been testing Silver Age, I really mean they've been playing a lot of games on Talishar, right? Which is good. It's something, but we haven't had a lot of high-tier competitive events that have actually, put the pedal to the metal and decided what's going to be good in the format and what's not. We have had like one event recently, right? Wasn't Chain good in Silver Age for some reason? Was it like a Battle Hardened or something?
Yes.
Okay. So let's switch topics a little bit more formally. How has the rollout for the Silver Age format differed from the Living Legend format? While Living Legend was heavily implied to exist one day until it actually did, Silver Age is not something that has to exist. But LSS still wanted to make sure that this format was going to succeed before they put it into the game. So they had this Project Blue, this nebulous, testy format where everybody like knew it existed and there was a lot of hype for it, but it wasn't super clear where it was going to go in the future. If this was going to be an official format, if it was going to turn into something else. And so they were able to get the community's hands on it before it became official. I think that's important for a successful rollout of a format is the community already knows about it before it gets announced.
It's sort of like a slow release valve, right?
Yeah.
If you just open up the fire hose, we're going to get blown away and have a big reaction. But if you gently increase the water pressure,
it's kind of like they already knew this was going to work, you know? It wasn't a surprise that there was all this hype around the announcement of Silver Age because they had already seen Project Blue had enough of a support behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and everyone had the same reaction to Project Blue as they do now to Silver Age. People really like the format.
Yeah.
Well, seemingly. Well, we'll see if this enthusiasm keeps up through competitive events.
They also, compared to where Living Legend was just skirmishes from the beginning, Silver Age has already been announced that it'll be played at skirmishes, but also at every calling, there's going to be a one-day event, formerly the Battle Hardened, now called a Showdown, which is going to be the Silver Age format for the weekend. And the Pro Tour itself, Pro Tour Yokohama, will also feature Silver Age as one of its 2 constructed formats. So we're seeing it at all levels of play from the get-go. In the next 6 months, you can expect Silver Age everywhere.
Now, this does... I'm sorry to bring up especially because we're at 15 minutes, I'm sorry to bring up such a big discussion point. But one thing that I find really interesting is that it seems like what LSS is doing so much better with Silver Age is the explicit support and framework that they're placing around it.
Yeah.
For Silver Age, they're releasing pre-constructed decks that are conceivably tournament ready, that claim to be tournament ready. And they are putting all these showdowns and they're putting big prize support on these showdowns. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, hey, guess what? It's going to be the other format for PT Yokohama. Figure it out, boys. Like, this is going to become the new pre-constructed format. And it feels like it's kind of being pushed onto the community. But the community, it was also sort of a groundswell, right? They did a very quiet release and the community latched onto it. Which is a little bit odd because I feel like Living Legend almost started as a groundswell movement of players saying, well, I miss my old hero. I'm going to go play them. And then LSS constructing the framework around them. But this time it's almost in the opposite. And I'd imagine that to work differently, right? I'd imagine the format that got the initial player groundswell to do better than the one where we're sort of growing onto the lattice work that LSS has constructed.
Yeah.
And yet it's been the inverse. The Silver Age, with all the more LSS support, seems to be getting more ground than Living Legend, which had more of that natural growth.
It seems like Silver Age is just a lot more approachable overall, especially to newer players. I've noticed that at our local shop, Tilted Games, they've had a pretty big surge of new players. I feel like 6 or 7 overall. And all of them, in addition to experiencing CC, have been showing up to the Silver Age, the second Fleshman Armory they've been putting on weekly, which is like an on-demand stage night. It just feels like it's done so much to make it really approachable than the likes of Living Legend, even with the LL Armory decks.
Yeah, if you want players to play your format, you want to make it as easy as possible to do so.
And ultimately, LL had a lot of barriers of entry. Maybe that's really the problem here, that Silver Age is simply better positioned for more players to enter it than Living Legend was.
One other thing I want to ask you two is, do you think that Silver Age gives you a play experience that you can't get in any of the other formats in the game? Not Commoner, not Blitz. Does Silver Age give you something unique? And if so, is it something that is going to get you to sleeve up a deck and actually play it?
Yes and yes. I think the lack of Majestics in Silver Age is fantastic. And I think adding rares is what fixed Commoner. Like, I remember trying to play Commoner because, Fuzzy, you got into Commoner.
I did play Commoner.
Dennis and John Zapata both like playing Commoner. They've met in a lot of finals of big gold foil events at tournaments. And I was like, man, I guess I'll try Commoner. And then half of the heroes are just completely unviable.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But adding rares just helped so much. So many more heroes became playable. And that helped a ton. I think it helps strike that balance between like the normal high-powered experience of Classic Constructed and the extremely low power of Commoner. And that, I think it's a really clean balance point.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, it's kind of like what people enjoy about Limited, right? But in a constructed format.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's true, where you're playing close to the fundamentals of the game. I think banning the 0-for-4 D-Reacts is also something that really changes the way that the game is played.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're already having an issue of fatigue slop. Could you imagine if it was with D-Reacts?
Yeah. And I think that actually does like give people a way to really see the game differently. I'd be really curious to see how it goes going forward too, you know? I think that's about all I have to say about launching the format. I think Silver Age is much better positioned to actually get a player base and see a lot of success and hype for it going forward. Hopefully that hype continues. I hope that I'm not proved wrong and we're still playing Silver Age a year, 2 years, 5 years from now. But I gotta confess, I hope that Living Legend comes back too, because it's always been a part of the game. So Clark in Blue Pitch, why don't you talk to us about how Living Legend may return in the future or what it would take?
Yeah, so I want to start off this pitch by really talking about, first off, let's make sure we all know where we're coming from, which is that we don't know why LSS nixed the Living Legend format. We don't know why they moved it to special formats, and we don't know ultimately why Silver Age has risen up in its place. And we don't know if there are plans for LSS to bring Living Legend back into their premier organized play structure. And as Fuzzy mentioned, LL's inevitable. Look, like, we cannot let all of these cards that have been banned and all of these heroes that have hit Living Legend stay there forever. People will find a way to play with them. So even though it's been relegated to the special formats zone, it is sure to make a return. So for this section, I want to do a much more open discussion. How and when do we think it is going to be best for Living Legends to return?
Before I answer that, can I give you my best guess for why I think they shelved it? Because this is something I feel like we've dodged around, but I think is super critical to this discussion, which is that I think the biggest problem is that people were not playing the format because it was unhealthy. And it's unhealthy because they're not able to make the right ban list adjustments to get the format where they want it to be. And they can't do that without the data that comes from people playing it. So it's this weird trifecta of factors that all compound on each other. And they basically need more players in order to get the data to make healthier decisions about the ban list to get people excited to play it.
To draw that into this question, I think it's also because it was too soon.
Probably, yeah.
If you, in their announcement for the keynote speech for Compendium of Wraith, they said, it is finally around the time where people are starting to become nostalgic. And I'm like, it wasn't last year when you tried to make LL happen?
Yeah.
Like, it's now as you relegate LL to the special format zone? Like, if everyone's getting nostalgic now, that would be the time to say, hey, let's lean on this nostalgia. Hey, everyone, let's go look at the LL format.
Yeah.
And I think they really pushed Living Legend a bit too soon, and there wasn't enough different things, right? This ties in so much of what you were talking about, Fuzzy, and Yellow Pitch, and what we were talking about in Red Pitch. Like, what kind of format is it? What's degenerate and too degenerate? Like, what? All these different barriers and lines could have been sorted out over 4 more years of game design and dev.
Right.
And instead, it felt like they just brought it on too early. Modern can't exist while the cards are still in standard rotation. I think Marlin being one of the big heroes in LL is almost kind of a marker for its failure. Because why is this deck that is currently classic constructed playable suddenly a force in your Living Legend format? That feels odd.
That is true.
So I think wait like 3 years.
Sure.
Before you try bringing it back in showdowns and whatnot.
Especially because it just quote unquote failed, right?
Yes. Like not this year, probably not next year.
Yeah.
Not 2026, probably not 2027.
It's going to take a long time to generate the hype necessary to relaunch the format.
Yeah. I think 2025 was also a really big year because we saw more heroes Living Legend in that year than all of the other years combined. Like, we doubled the list of heroes on the Living Legend format list. We need to give time for players to think nostalgically back on 2025 and 2024 play. We need them to think about these heroes that they've lost and want to return to them. And I think a part of that is also LSS not printing the heroes back into CC like they did with Prism.
That is kind of true, because, like, if that's the goal, is heroes generally move in one direction downstream, you're kind of kicking them back upstream when you reprint them with a different hero ability and a different name. Like, why would I play Dromai in LL when you're about to make a new Dromai in CC? That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Joel, what do you think about that?
Me approaching LL, even within the next year or so, if Bolton stays the same throughout all of that time, I don't know. I feel like that would really dampen my experience with Living Legend. Like, I want even my bad heroes to have enough tools to give me a reason to play. And I feel like you'll only ever have that for Runeblades, Illusionists, and Guardians for the foreseeable future, because that's all the,
it's mostly the ones who have LL'd, yeah.
Exactly. So, like, you're never going to have a critical mass where people are incentivized to brew with their current favorite heroes.
Until they're gone.
Right. To put a number on it, I guess I would say at least 3 rotations of each of the planes. Like, you got to visit Solana 3 separate times, and you got to visit the Demonastery for the first time, and then 2 other times, or develop the story, add more heroes, add more depth to the game, I guess, and then it would make sense.
So basically, have all of our foundations both visited and revisited before there's enough space for us to go back to older heroes and care about them. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and at the rate that they're doing it, it could be like 5-10 years. Like, I'm not expecting it to be anytime soon, because you just need a lot of material to cook with. That's why Legacy is so cool, because you're digging through years and years of cards. And for Flesh and Blood to do the same thing, it just requires a lot of time.
Yeah. I also want to ask, do we think the design burdens are too great? And almost in line with this, do we think that the eternal nature of Flesh and Blood actually hampers Living Legend as a format? When we think about why did Legacy and Modern work, it's because those cards rotated out. So there was large sections of bulk sitting around that people wanted to see if they could work with the new cards in a way that the designers did not design, that they did not expect, because they're like, yeah, you can't play those 2 cards together in a format, so they're never going to be played in a format. And that was exciting for Magic players to explore. And so when they created the Modern format, it was, yes, you can take these cards that were never intended to be played together and then play them together, which is a little bit different than what it is now, where all of the cards are kind of expected to always be played together. We're always going to have Wrecker Romp. We're always going to have Bounding Demigon. Right, sure, Artivore and some of these other banned cards can exist there, but is that going to be enough? Or are these design burdens simply too great? Are these cards that get banned, are they supposed to be banned in every format?
Design burden. So originally I thought you meant that design burden, like the devs have to spend the time playtesting the format in order for it to be healthy enough for release, which is something that we've seen a concern in the past. Devs have said like, hey, we don't have the energy to test Count Your Blessings every time we design new cards. So there are limitations on how much we can do playtesting. And Living Legend is another format they'd have to be playtesting as they look into the future. So not having that format is one less thing that they have to worry about. But you're talking about something else, right? Where just the vast number of cards in the game is already being tested in a classic constructed context, right? What were you saying?
Yes, I'm saying that, but also the individual power level of the cards, right? Like the reason why the LL play experience is different is because you can play cards that were banned in Classic Constructed, right? There were, this shit's too hot for Classic Constructed. LL only, baby. But then you go to LL and you're like, oh shit, it's pretty fucking hot here too. Is that just a problem that they're always like, if the card was a problem in CC, why wouldn't it then be a problem in Living Legend? And if it results in it getting banned in Living Legend, then what is Living Legend really providing in terms of different play experiences?
Yeah, it's a very tricky balance.
The second part of sort of what I was getting at is if Classic Constructed is already an Eternal format, then why is Living Legend also an Eternal format? Like maybe these sorts of legacy formats only really work when there's rotation.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what Joel is alluding to with this like 10 years, dramatically, but 10 years down the line when we've like visited and revisited all of these concepts multiple times, only then should we reintroduce LL. Because like at the end of the day, the rotation is the thing that makes it exciting. And the fact that Classic Constructed never rotates, I don't know if LL is really ever truly going to be different enough.
Yeah, or to put it a little bit differently, even though heroes leave Classic Constructed, the cards don't. And so with the card pool being mostly exactly the same, save for some class talent combos.
Specific like standout cards like Art of War, Awakening, Crown of Seeds.
Or like right now there's no Draconic Illusionist in CC. There probably will be in the future. So it's not necessarily a given that those cards are going to be rotated out forever. But right now those cards are not in Classic Constructed. They're quote unquote rotated out. But there's not enough of those for us to have a solid reason to leave the Classic Constructed format and get hype about Living Legend. So I think you're right that like the reason why LL exists is to solve a problem that doesn't really exist in the first place.
Yeah. At least not yet. All right. Final question. Fuzzy, I loved how you brought up that a product would help onboarding so much, and that onboarding is really needed for something like Living Legend, especially if you want to force people to play it at things like Pro Tours. You need the ability to get a large section of your player base onboarded onto this format quickly. And with the price of Living Legend decks and cards, that's going to be a whole lot harder. So what kind of product could LSS create that would get a lot of players onboarded onto Living Legend?
I think the Armory decks actually would be pretty good at this. Imagine like the next time we return to Rosetta, they make a Briar LL Armory deck. And then like all these cool like supports that they want to print for Briar anyway because she's so cool and sexy and they just love printing Briar cards even when she's not a hero in the set. I think like they can print them in the LL Armory deck, and that way you get to see a little bit of new blood injected in, but it's also very opt-in. You only buy it if you care about LL. But also Briar being a good hero in LL, like I think that'd be the best example in my mind is just print the Armory decks. The Armory decks are at the price point that I would expect for an enfranchised player, and they're still pretty affordable. I think they'd hit the right like niche.
But they'd miss out on those legendary equipment.
That's true. though a lot of legendary equipment is good for multiple classes. That's the stuff that does not rotate out. So when you buy your Grasp, you either already had one because you cared about Runeblade, or you buy it and it will still be good for heroes other than just Briar.
Yeah. Joel, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, and this is sort of this is basically Fuzzy's answer, but just applied on a larger scale. I think with the success of Compendium, they could potentially release an LL supplementary set.
Hell yeah.
I actually don't know if I like that idea, but keep going.
Well, yeah, hear me out. I think what makes it compelling is that you can create really powerful support. And like you said, Fuzzy, because there are staple legendaries, you never have to print them in armory decks. There's also at least they've been doing less of these, like staple majestic class talent cards, like I think of Sacred Art J Tiger domain, or if you create more of those for the class, then I think it'll actually be a really good gateway to like revisit Zen and like maybe an alt-art Marvel hero, but all of his cards that are printed for him are just generically good cards for Mystic Ninja. I think that is how you can get a lot of people really invested into it indirectly, and support CC versions of those heroes at the same time.
Yes, I completely agree. Because I don't think armory decks will allow you to reprint the power that you need. And I don't think LSS will ever go for it because it's too guaranteed. The numbers are too precise. If you can put it in a product, you can leave it in pull rates or in special packs.
Yeah, but if you're just talking about reprints, I think that's really easy for LSS to implement as is. And maybe you're not looking for any big swings, but I think they're already kind of making a point of reprinting these big legendaries.
Sure. I guess I'm thinking specifically about like Spellbound Creepers and Grasp of the Arknight, which have not seen meaningful reprints. Yeah. And sure. If at all, I don't know. Like are they going to reprint them? I don't know. Fuzzy, do you know?
I think that they're this type of stuff that I would expect them to reprint within the next year, because they've already made a point of reprinting big legendaries like Flick Knives, New Horizons, and I would expect Grasp to be like in the next couple sets for sure.
Sure. I am very much of the mind that like armory decks and the way that LSS approach them for now is simply not enough. They don't give you enough. And you need to get enough in a product. I think a more premium deck experience that maybe comes with lots of decks for you to try different things, and then you can redo one or two of copies that you print in those, and when you and your friend both buy a version of this, think like the Blitz decks, right? But rather than each deck coming with a full playset, it can come with a one of or two of copy that then if your friend also buys it and they go, well, look, I really like the Viscerai deck, but you really like the Starvo deck. So what if I just give you the Starvo deck and you give me your Viscerai deck, and then I can put them together and get the value that way? Like, I guess what I'm putting here is that I don't think you can ask players to spend $100 on a single deck that they may not like as an onboarding into a format.
Okay.
You need to give them $200 and lots of options that they can then trade and exchange with one another in order to create the higher power versions of the deck that are actually needed to compete.
Yeah. I can see why you'd be critical of armory decks for Living Legend, for sure.
Yeah. But ultimately, I still think that even has problems. I'm all in on Joel's suggestion.
I think if you're doing like one of your 3 sets of a year and it's printed for a bunch of stuff that doesn't impact Classic Constructed by definition, I think that could be really risky. And I don't think
why not be a mastery pack?
Just make it a 4th set. Fuck it.
Just more.
but a 4th set that like doesn't have a sustained draft format, that isn't considered to be part of a competitive season, kick off or be supported or surround a competitive season, and specifically focus on giving these LL decks a chance to shine. Heroes that are outside of LL, right? Why was everyone upset about the dusts? Because I'm opening my draft pack And I want to play my Classic Constructed cards, and I'm opening up a Dust. I can't even play the Dust in Classic Constructed.
Yeah.
But that's not going to be an issue if you put it in a format that's intended for Living Legend.
I would still be skeptical if the cards were not legal in Classic Constructed by nature of the fact that they were printed in this product.
Any new cards would be.
Okay.
But
is that what you meant, Joel?
Yeah. Well, here, you could also print old banned cards. This is how we could get our Art of War reprint, our Cash-In reprint.
Yeah.
Our Awakening reprint, our Crown of Seeds reprint.
So you're talking more like how Compendium is like, here are some cards that are intended for Silver Age, and you can play them in Constructed if you really want to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Look, at the end of the day, Living Legend is eventually going to have to make a comeback. People are going to want to play these decks and play with these banned cards. I think LSS is going to have to give people a lot of space to find out what that looks like for the community first, before they really go all in on it again. But I think paying attention to making sure it's a really different feeling format, paying attention to what sort of products they print alongside it to help with onboarding, and I think really paying attention to what cards are too pushed or not pushed enough for the format is really going to be important for its overall success on its return. But that's all I have for Living Legend's return.
Do you guys think we'll still be playing Flesh and Blood when Living Legend comes back?
Absolutely. I'm playing this game until I die. Or until Bolt Mill, whichever comes first.
All right, with all that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our Arsenal Zone.
The Arsenal Zone is the part of the podcast where we all shouted a card that's been on our minds lately, and we like to start things off with a suggestion from one of our patrons. See what cards have been on your mind lately.
For this week, we have... Drumroll, please. Somebody. Anorable.
Woo!
With Civic Steps. And Civic Steps is a Guardian equipment leg piece that blocks 2 with Temper and says, whenever this defends, create a Quicken token under another hero's control. And Anorable had this to say about it.
Civic Steps from a place of anger. Guardians have been hungering for a good piece of in-class equipment in the leg slot. They finally got it in the TCC box, and it is a Temper 2 with giving your opponent a beneficial token. Very flavorful and cool for a UPF hero like Brevant and his chivalrous blocking, but very sad that there have been 2 whole legendary legs released after that are generally better for the class. As a reminder, our Arsenal Zone is for cards we love, cards we hate, and cards we love to hate. So Nora, I get you, girl.
Do you guys think Guardian needs legendary legs?
My lawyers have told me not to comment on this. I think it's really good for Silver Age. I think it's really cool and flavorful in Silver Age because blocking, there's not a lot of good blocking equipment in Silver Age right now. And I think Nora hit it on the head with, you can have some really, really cool blocking experiences with Civic Steps. Like
Absolutely.
It feels really good to block and then have the opponent be like, oh shit, like I just can't use this Quicken at all. Like I can't get value out of that. You just got a free 2 block on me.
Yep.
And finding the moments for that feels very good and rewarding. But yeah, it's like, really? You can't give us something better in class? We instead get 2 generics? I don't know. I'm with Nora on this one.
Interesting.
Cool shout.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear your card shouted out on our show, just pay us $5 a month or more, and you too can tell the whole world about what you think about a trading card.
Like Civic Steps.
Yeah.
All right, with that being said, I'm going to jump into my card to kick off our section of the Arsenal Zone. I want to talk about Sigil of Suffering. This is a Runeblade defense reaction. It costs 0. It blocks for 3, but it says when you defend with this, deal 1 arcane damage to target hero. And if your opponent has taken damage from taken arcane damage, it gets +1 block, I think. Yeah, Fuzzy's gonna fucking fact check me.
Yeah,
here.
it's if you have dealt arcane damage this turn.
If you've dealt arcane damage this turn.
Brother.
I did not realize it reads like that. I've been playing this card for years.
Yeah.
And I thought it had to have been the damage from the Sigil of Suffering.
Yeah. Look, I hate this card. Okay.
Whoa.
Look, I don't think I hated this card, but like Silver Age, oh my god, why does Viserai get 2 0 for 5 D reacts? He has enough, okay? Look, I like Viserai.
Whoa.
He has enough.
Wait, Clark awakened Viserai hater?
Well, it's just the fact that he gets 2 in They're not even 4 blocks. It's 5 value.
I need to start a podcast with Hater Clark. I like what he's saying.
This card is so
5
good.
value. It's the 0 for 5. You banned the 0 for 4s, but you left the 0 for 5s.
Thank you, bro. That's what I've been saying.
At least Reduce has some really awkward use cases where, like, you have to pitch to play it, and it feels really bad.
Right. So, like, the first turn, or like first few turns, you do not want to be drawing this card at all.
Yeah, it can get really, really clunky, but Sigil of Suffering is never that clunky. Like,
Not on the same level, no.
Nowhere on the same level. There was one. I'm saying this because I played a Viserai in Silver Age against my Lyatha deck, and the Viserai player was like, oh, ha ha ha, I just get a 4 block and you take 1 damage, and now you're below me in life total, and like it's so much harder for you to now get the booing from your Mocking Blow. And I'm like, this sucks. I hate this. So yeah, Sigil of Suffering. Meh, ban this from Silver Age, or give me more tools to deal with it. That's it. That's my section.
Fantastic. Fuzzy, you want to go next?
For my card this week, I have the pleasure of announcing that I actually have been playing Flesh and Blood the last couple weeks. I've been busy, but I've been sleeving up my Gravy Bones deck because I actually put the pieces together to make Gravy Bones. You know that joke about how I never actually build the heroes I say I'm going to play?
You finally did it.
I have a Gravy Bones deck. I don't have all the pieces.
It just took a whole season later.
Because I was playing it like a month or 2 ago. I was playing it a month or 2 ago.
You didn't play it in High Seas.
I feel like I played it for at least 1 armory because it was that one that I was feeling sick. I did it. I played at least 1 armory with Gravy Bones. So
I'm shaking my head, listeners.
I've been playing the last couple weeks, and the ally that I want to be playable, but that like isn't run very much at all, is Barnacle.
Ooh.
Barnacle is a 2 cost, 3 health, 4 power, 2 pitch ally. Once he's on the field, as an action, you can tap him to attack. Doesn't cost any resources, and it's got Watery Grave. And I feel like on paper, the nice thing about this ally is he's kind of cheap. He's got like a hefty life total. You have to give a pretty much a whole card to get rid of this guy, and he attacks for 4 for free. He's not the only ally that does that. Like Chum, notably, attacks for 4 for free. So you can like full block with your hand and still attack with Chum. You can do the same thing with Barnacle, but he's a lot cheaper. And I feel like there's like a niche for this card, but people have kind of decided that he's not that good. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm good at Gravy Bones or like know the ins and outs of exactly when a card would be good or not. But I'm just kind of trusting that people think Barnacle's not that good. He doesn't have any abilities, so it's not that hard to see.
I like the full art Marvel Barnacle, and if you like it too, you can DM me to trade it because I've been trying to get rid of it for a while now.
That's just soliciting on our podcast. Right? Yeah, I recently saw Fuzzy at locals. I can vouch for him, and I didn't really see the use of Barnacle, but you at least had your stamped one, so I thought that was cool. And it also having so much health, yeah, kind of cool. Like it makes certain breakpoints. Like I feel like Syndra would have a tougher time with like Sawbones activations or Fearless confrontations. It's kind of interesting.
Joel, what do you got?
For my card, I'm shouting out one that I've been really upset with, which is Wild Ride. Recently, I came back from the Battle Hardened Vegas. Oh, I guess we didn't talk about that earlier, but yeah, I traveled with some friends to the Battle Hardened New Vegas or Las Vegas.
Yeah, I was barely aware that you even went to Vegas.
Yeah, and I honestly didn't do that hot. Like I think I had a really good first night when I drove in, but for the Battle Hardened and the PQ Plus, my Wild Rights, which is a 2 cost red pitch 6 power brute attack action that says when this attacks, draw a card, then discard a random card. If a card with 6 or more power is discarded this way, this gets go again. when I played this, I would more than often completely end my turn by discarding Blood Rush Bellows. Just really bad weekend of RNG. And so I sort of come full circle on this card once again, where I thought it was really good because I really liked playing KO. And it's going full circle where I'm really feeling the bad parts of the RNG and how inconsistent it can be. So probably my least favorite card in Brute now.
Yeah, especially because with Wild Ride, you're like encouraged to keep a whole hand.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I won't block because I have Wild Ride and a 2-cost to attack with. Yeah, baby, it's time to pop off. And then you flip and hit that Blood Rush Bellow and you go, fuck!
And you're just stuck with those 3 cards in hand that you were about to cast.
Oh God,
and
it's so miserable.
I feel like this card is the reason why Yuki Lee Bender and Tsubasa J. Ueda don't like the heavy hitters draft format, because there's a lot of RNG, and this is one of those examples of like, you got to keep a whole hand just to use the go again. If you lose the go again, you just lost your whole turn, and you're stuck with these cards. Like, super swingy.
Almost like rolling scab skin leathers. Hey, wait a minute.
Which I hear you're not supposed to do. I don't know. Awesome shout, Joel. Joel? Are you there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I was just thinking about that weekend, reflecting on my life choices, paying all that money to just pay 2 draw, end my turn.
Joel watching the Blood Rush Bellow go into graveyard. It's just a montage of all the bad RNG from the weekend.
I think I honestly discarded it more often than I resolved it in competitive play.
Gross.
Yeah.
God, that sounds like my Battlehard in San Diego experience.
Dude, it's tough. I don't know.
I think that's about all we've got for our podcast today.
That's the podcast?
Our next episode will be our 100th episode of Pitch It To Me podcast.
That's crazy. And don't forget to join our Discord, because Compendium of Wraith is coming out soon, and you don't want to be missing out on the spoilers when they start releasing those. Pitch It To Me podcast is the only place where you can get those. So be sure you're joined up or subscribed, all of the above. It's going to be a great spoiler season. I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah. And then I think we're going on hiatus for the second half of December. So,
yeah, for Christmas and New Year's week.
So if we don't post some episodes during December, sorry.
You can follow us at our socials to keep track of it. I will make sure to keep that updated with what's going on in the PITM world.
Yeah.
We'll also make an official announcement at some point between now and the 100th episode, talking about what our big plans are for the new year when we come back.
Yeah.
Any questions, everyone? No? All right, I guess we can wrap up.
All right, bye guys. Bye, Chair. I'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening.
Pitch It To Me podcast is hosted by Joel Recinos, Clark Moore, and Fuzzy Delp. Our executive producer is Talon Stradley. Our logistics coordinator is John Farkas. Music is produced by Dillon Hulse. Logo is designed by Han V. And our sound mixing is done by Christopher Moore. Last but not least, thank you, the listener, for taking the time to listen to our podcast. Be sure to give us a follow on your favorite social media platform at Pitch It To Me podcast.